Hi, I'm Mike, smartphonephotographytraining.com. This is a 1 hour workshop. It's going to be jam-packed, full of content and tips and ideas. Can't wait to get into this. I think this is better than a 4 hour course because I know myself, I find it really hard. But a 1 hour workshop, we're going to cover camera features. We're going to talk about the iPhone, some of the features in there that might be hidden, you might not be aware of, where some of these are transferable to the Android. I'll mention that as well. We're going to talk about capture techniques, camera apps, photographic intention, storytelling, and composition. We're going to use ChatGPT. I know it sounds really weird, but basically, we're going to use that to come up with some photographic tips and creative ideas with our photography. I'll show you how to do that. And then we're going to talk about, and I'm going to show you how I use Snapseed and Lightroom Mobile, the editing app, camera app as well, as you know. But let's get straight into it. First thing, I'm going to ask you questions throughout this because I want this to feel like you're here with me. And when was the last time you cleaned the lens on your smartphone? Okay, I know we do it with our big cameras. When was the last time you used something like this to clean it? Now, this is just a cotton bud, and this is fantastic because what gets into these things? Our fingerprints. Okay. Oils, dirt, all that sort of thing. And this, like, you just got a little brush first, little blow off any foreign matter, debris in there, and then we can get in there and really give it a good clean with this. Now you can wipe it on your top, but I think this is great because it also gets in around all between the lenses. Don't forget the front lens as well. You've got to get in there and clean that front lens. I know some of us don't use the front lens, but it's good to get in there and clean it. If you have lens accessories, you have lens attachments, then you can use this to get in there. And again, don't forget that rear little bit of glass in there as well, because that can gather a lot of dust in there. All right, iPhone specific now. When you tap the screen, when you've lined up and you've framed your shot, when you tap the screen, what does it do? Does a few things. Number one, it focuses. It's like spot focus. You're telling the camera, you're telling the phone, I'm going to keep calling this a camera. Okay. You're telling it, hey, I know you love being automatic, but I want some creative control here. I want to focus there. Now, it does a fantastic job with there's people in there, even multiple people. Our smartphones now will work out and balance the focus. But if you do that, then that will do a great job. It also is spot metering. Okay, so it's also telling it, okay, this is the reference point that I want you to balance the exposure, the lights and darks of the photo. And it also contributes to white balance as well, because you're telling it, hey, this is where I want you to meter and focus everything. Okay, alrighty. Next, and if you're on an Android, okay, a lot of Androids, when you tap the screen, you'll set the focus point, and then you'll have a little left and right with a slider. Now, what's that? That's the exposure or the brightness slider. So you can make it brighter or darker. With the iPhone, you may have noticed that when you tap it, you'll get a square, and then you get a slider with a little star, like a sun icon. So when you swipe up and down next to it, not on it. So when you swipe next to it, up and down, you can make it brighter and darker, and that's fantastic. I remember the first time I discovered that, and I was blown away because I thought these were just a point and shoot. So this great tip there. Next one is the grid lines on there. Now the grid lines are there for the rule of thirds and also helps you orientate and straighten for horizontal or vertical reference points, things in the scene where you go, if it's not quite straight, it's going to look a bit odd without being deliberately intentional angled like a Dutch angle. Now, if you've heard of the rule of thirds and all that sort of thing, and you think, oh, this is really basic, Mike, hang on. We're going to get to some more complicated and get into composition stacking, and I'll explain my 4-step system. And it's all out of my book there. I've got over 100 different techniques. I'm not going to cover all those today because we've just got 1 hour. But next thing I want to talk about is the flash. Such a much better job. It does a much better job than it used to. Because now we have tone color and slow sync, or like it just works. It works depending on which lens it's using out of the array. It'll change and adapt. LiDAR uses all that. It's pretty impressive. You don't have to think about anything. But doesn't always work fantastic. So what I recommend is you grab a, just this is a Ulanzi, so many different brands. Pro Photo is fantastic. You can use the app and you can actually use an off-camera flash with this. You can use the torch on another phone. This is my wife when we're out having a meal. And the benefit of this is that you can get in closer for a more harsh shadows, more texture, or you can be a bit further away for a bit more soft diffused. This was the last time she ever did this for me because I actually, the next step, I asked her to hold a napkin in front of the torch to diffuse it a little bit. So don't go crazy, but that's an option as well, because the flash, as you know, when it's on the camera, on camera flash, it just, so off camera, off to the side, change the distance, it makes a much better improved photo. The next one I want to share with you is live photos. I know myself for a long time, I was not a fan of the live photos, but it is so good now. As you know, live photos will take 3 seconds. So before you actually press the shutter speed, it's continually capturing and dumping photos until you press it. And then after you've pressed it, so it takes a series of photos. Now, I took this photo of my daughter doing a ballet move, and it's just not, this is not when I press the shutter. Okay. I like to think after 25 years, I can press the shutter at the right time. But this was when the iPhone selected a frame, and that's what it does. It picks the best, what it thinks is the best frame. It doesn't know what your photographic intention is. It just goes, okay, this is the sharpest photo out of the lot. And the reason why, if I bring this up and go into edit, and then I'll go to the live photos, you can see the frame that it's selected. Now, the ones before, she's moving, and she's moving quite fast. So you can see that's when I pressed it. But there's so much movement there either side of this frame that when she lands, everything's nice and steady and sharp. So it picked that. So you can go in there, edit, go into the live photos, and then swipe around and go, you know what, make that my key photo, make that my photo, and then you're done. Okay, and then you can go in there and edit. Makes sense? This is why I do it. You get the right shots. If you're taking photos of pets, wildlife, pretty much anything where you need some sort of gesture and you need that right precise moment, it is that's fantastic. Now, Android users, you have Pro Mode, which I'm jealous about. You can access ISO and shutter and have some manual control. On the iPhone, we need to go for a manual camera app. This one here I love. It's called Reflex. And that gives you access to all these things, and you can do long exposures. They've got a new one. Same app developer has another one called Reheld, where you can do up to 30 seconds handheld long exposures. Incredible. To do some even longer long exposures, I love the name, even longer. Here you can do frame averaging. You can get that silky smooth water, skies. They've got light trails and star trails. It's just amazing what you can do. One of the things I love about the computational photography is the portrait mode. It's available on the iPhones. A lot of Androids now have an actual portrait mode or live focus. They've got all these different modes that you can go in there and blur the background. If you don't, I'm going to show you an app called After Focus shortly. But let's go in here. If I go to edit, okay, and I can go and change the f-stop, and I can, after the fact, so not only when you take the photo, after you take the photo, you can go in there and you can increase the blur. That's really good. Lighting, you can change the lighting effects. That's pretty funky. I like that. Black and white. Okay. I actually really like that. And then you can go in there and you can play around with the rest of the enhancements. So that's really cool. I really like that. So, yep, that's how you do it on the iPhone. Let's go into After Focus. Okay, so this is After Focus. Now you can see here that there's no portrait mode or anything like that. So I go to focus and just swipe over the areas that I want to stay in focus. Okay, the bird there, and the background is the trees, or that area is the background. You can see here it's going to struggle with some areas because there's no clear separation with the tones and the colors. So we have to go in here and just give it a little bit of a help. Okay, cross the streams there, so that's not going to work. So let's go back. Get the rest of it in focus here. That feather, we need to get in a bit close there. All right, and the other areas that I kind of want in focus, well, kind of blended in a little bit, if you like. So not completely out of focus, but not blurred. It's all these areas. Okay, That's looking pretty good. Okay. And then we press go and we see what's happened. It's done a pretty good job there. Now we can go in here and we can actually go and change the strength. So we press on blur. We can go and reduce that so that it's not as intense. And that's looking good. I'll go back. I'm just going to change this to the background because that looked a bit funky. Let's go again. Yeah, there we go. And one of the things I love here is down the bottom here, we have fading background. So I can tap on that and it will look a little bit more natural and blend from blurred to out of focus to focus from bottom to top, similar to the way an SLR works. All right, you can see here around the bird that didn't work. So sometimes you might need to go back and forth and just fix that up a little bit and through there. And I need to keep the top of the bottom of the bird there. Okay, go back again. Yep, it's looking good. So you can actually blur the background on any of your existing photos using this app, After Focus. Now, we all have different cameras on our smartphones. iPhones, they all look the same. Androids, they're all slightly different. One thing that's consistent with Androids is you have a pro mode where you can access ISO, shutter speed, white balance, all that sort of thing. So on the iPhone, you can do that as well with Lightroom Mobile. It's not just an editor, it is a camera as well. So we'll bring that up. So I just want to talk through some of the tools here. Over on the left-hand side, you've got some 3 dots there, menu overflow, you've got settings. In here, you can change things. I like the one below it, show highlight clipping. So if there's something really bright going on in the scene that is going to blow out and you can't, and you'll lose all the details, it'll give you some zebra kind of markings. Your different grids, I like having the rule of thirds grid and also the level. You'll see there the level is there. Got your timer and you can change your aspect ratio as well. So let's get rid of that. Okay, next is JPEG or DNG. There's much debate about which one's better or worse. For me, I actually prefer JPEG because I don't need to go in and do extra noise reduction editing. You'll notice when you have a play around, especially in low light, you take a JPEG and then you take a DNG and compare the two, you'll see that artifacts, you'll see the noise and just looks, that doesn't look great resolution. It's not the case. It's just that a JPEG will go and apply noise reduction and other enhancements. So I leave it on JPEG. Okay, you've got your flash there. Over on the right side, you have different presets. So you can change the look. I'm just going to go with none for now. You can change the lens depending on what phone you have. And then you can lock the exposure as well. But we're not going to do that now. We're going to go through the others. So exposure compensation, this is exactly the same as when you tap the screen and you adjust the brightness slider. This is basically the same thing. It'll make the photo brighter or darker. Quite like that. Okay. Next one is seconds. This is your shutter speed. Now, a smaller number, so what have we got? What's the 1 second? So let's go in here. And we've got 1/4 of a second, and you can make it up to 1,000. So basically, the slower the shutter, the more light will come in, and that's why the photo actually ends up being super bright because you're letting in a lot of light. When you slow it down, it's great for low light conditions. If you want to have some movement blur in the photo, if you want to have faster shutter for capturing bees flying around, then you go faster shutter, but you'll need extra light. That could be the sun, or it can be artificial light that you bring in, so you can get a faster shutter. Now, any of these, if you want to reset, instead of pressing reset and resetting everything to auto, you can just swipe down to auto, and you'll go back to auto settings there. ISO is there's a lot of people out there that say that it's the sensor and it's adjusting the sensitivity of the sensor. It's not. It basically, every camera has a default sensor setting, and with this one it's 50. I believe it's 50. So when you increase the ISO, you're actually amplifying that signal processing that happens. Bit technical, but ISO is different on digital cameras than what it used to be with film. So there we go. We'll run through those. I'll just run through an iPhone now and go into some of the extra little settings in there. Over on the left here, you have a menu expansions, and here you can open up a few more things. Positive, negative, exposure compensation. I like to have mine at -0.3. That's so that I can actually ensure that the camera, or give the camera more of a chance to not capture the highlights and really blow them out. So I want to underexpose, because it's much easier to bring up the shadows than it is if you've got really bright clouds and you overexpose it. You lose the details a lot quicker in highlights than you do shadows. So I leave it there. Okay, let's go back out of there. Okay, aspect ratio. This one here is your different presets, similar to what we just saw in Lightroom. Here you can go in there and you can choose from different presets, vibrant, warmth, and then you can go and adjust over here. You can actually adjust each of these two variables, the tone and the warmth. And then you'll notice that over on the left-hand side, where you have your icon for those different presets, it changes color to let you know that, hey, you've gone and adjusted this, so this has been personalized. All right, reset to vibrant. So I'm going to reset all that. Okay. Next one is live. So you can have an auto on or off. Okay. The one under that is night mode. Now, by default, it's set on auto. You can actually swipe and have it turned off if you like. If you don't like the camera slowing down and taking a longer exposure, because sometimes if you're at a party or you're in a restaurant, it'll go into night mode, but you're not actually stabilizing, or you don't have an opportunity to stabilize it. So you're better off using the flash and turning off the night mode. Right, over on the left here, we have raw. So you can turn raw on or off, and then you can also turn the live photos. So you can't have live photos and raw on at the same time, because live photos is a JPEG file format. Raw is a ProRAW file format. So you can't have two file formats recording at the same time. A couple more apps that I want to show you really quickly, which are really helpful for scouting and preparing for your photos. This one is called Clear Outside. It's really handy because you can go in there into dates coming up, and you can actually see where the cloud is. So whether the cloud is low, medium, high, you can see the moon, what stage is that. Like today, it's a new moon, 1%. You can see here sunrise, sunset. You can also see when the moon rises and sets, which is really handy. And you can see the different times, locations. You can preset different locations. So I can go to Melbourne and I can see what's happening in Melbourne when it comes up. There we go. So I can see the times. So at the moment, I can see we've got 100% total cloud. All right. So if I'm doing astrophotography, I want to wait until, okay. I've got a few days to wait, haven't I? All right, let's go. Here we go. All right. So the 22nd of June, it's 11 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night is our first time here. You can see here, this is the first time we actually, at the moment, it has no cloud. So that'll be fantastic to get out there and do those long exposure night photos on our smartphone. The other app that I want to show you really quickly is Photo Pills. This one's really good. Yes, you have the moon, sun. You also have the night augmented reality, where you can point this at a location and it will actually show you where the galactic core is, different star orientations, and the planner. I love the planner. You can go to any location and then you can just swipe across the bottom here and you can see the direction, different time of day. You can see exactly where the sun is going to be shining. Really great for composition and getting that sun direction for more in the morning and in the afternoon. So we've talked about lights. I want to talk about a few more accessories here. If you're using a tablet or an iPad, this is fantastic. A holder like this is Ulanzi. It's just got a thread on the back there that you can undo it, and you can go two different sizes there, from a mini to a large pro size, and well, not just two sizes, whatever size you need. And it has the cold shoe mount on the top there, so that you can attach a light or something else there. Best thing about this, apart from the quality of being, you know, what do they call it? Aluminum, oh, I don't know. It's that, they all say it is that aerial grade, whatever. But geez, it's heavy. It's got some weight to it, but it's got the Swiss Arca mount slots at the bottom there, but you can attach it to the bottom, and also at the back here, I actually have a tripod attachment there. So I can put that into the tripod at the back. Really handy for long exposures where you need to set the camera up or the iPad up for 30 seconds. If you have it set up here, a little bit of wind, especially a big tablet, will pick up the wind and it'll move around a little bit. Whereas if you have it attached there, there's less movement. So that works really well for those long exposure photos.
a phone holder. This one here, this is, what's the brand of this one? This is a Sunwave Photo. Again, solid construction, heavy. It's got the Swiss Arca. It's got the little slots here. Let's see if I can move that around. You can see the slots there. Really handy. So with the tripod, you just pop that straight in. You don't need a second attachment like I had here. So the second attachment, you don't need that. It's actually built in. Folds down flat. Super cool. But the thing I love the most about this is that it has the screw on the top here. So you can clamp it down, and with 100% as close as you can confidence, that is clamped down, and it has a little ridge here at the top and at the bottom, so they can't just fall out. And it's got the rubber there, so you've got the friction as well holding that in there. Okay, I talked about lights before, but now that I have this out, I just want to show you one more. This one, again, is a Ulanzi brand. Okay, it's like a cube light. You've got an on-off at the top here. But with this pack, comes with a diffuser and a little, well, you've got some barn doors, which I still haven't used. But the barn doors here, you can flick it open so you can actually control the light, how it comes out. A bit finicky. There we go. You've got the barn doors here, so you can actually shape the light and actually shape it the way you like. But this is the bit I love. Snaps on there. This little snood. So for those shots indoors where you're setting up macros or product photography, you've got there with that with some filters. All comes in one pack. Really handy. All right. Lens accessories. I used to be right into lenses because it provided us with a lot more versatility with our camera, being able to capture telephoto, wide angle. But those names now are quite common because our phones have multiple lenses. We have a wide angle, we have a telephoto. Even some now have a macro built in, which some Androids is just a mode, which is not fantastic. And if that is the case, then I would still recommend a macro lens, because you can put that over top of the main camera, because the main camera is going to have the better resolution instead of just the fifth or sixth lens that's dedicated to macro. You can actually put this on the main one, so you'll get better quality. This one here is a manual focus. I love it. You can focus within a couple of millimeters of a subject. I love to chase around bees, and I can get in there really close. And if I change this focal length, I can have it so that it's really close to the lens and get a depth of field that's only 2-3 millimeters, which if you're getting the face of a bee, you can have the rest of the bee out of focus, or I can extend it the other way and the manual focus go the other way. I can get up to 7 centimeters and have a good 10 millimeters depth of field. And then the background is just a beautiful, natural, real bokeh and real blur. So that's a really handy. That's a Streaming Optics cinematic manual macro lens. One more I wanted to talk about is tripods, because I get asked about this all the time. Which tripod should I get for a smartphone? The number one thing is a good clamp. Okay, we talked about that. Depending on what you're using your tripods for just inside a studio like this, I like something that turns into a selfie stick. It's got a nice handle there. You can rotate this knob, and you can then have the phone different angles. Really handy. This one here has an extension on there so that I can extend it out a little bit. Okay, that's a basic setup. The next level is one of these. I love this setup. This setup is fantastic. This is like a Gorilla Pod. This is a Ulanzi brand. There's so many different ones out there. Don't go cheap. Don't go with eBay, because the legs, as soon as you move them, snap. So you want to get a decent one. What I like about this one is I've got I can wrap this around something. What I love about this is it has a couple of different options there to add accessories onto the tripod. So I have this external light set up here with an extender arm, and then I can lock that into position, lock it in, and then that's stuck there. Fantastic for chasing bees around, getting in there and actually having a light source in there as well. So that's a really handy one. My go-to that I use all the time, that I'm actually using right now, is a Me Photo. Now, you can't get this one anymore, unfortunately, but That said, there's a lot of options out there like this one. What I love about this is you've got the rubber feet, just twist, okay, and you can twist that out. There's others out there that have a lever. Yeah, it's a personal preference. There's no right and wrong. If you're out there in the freezing cold and you might prefer, for those landscape photos and you're out there before sun up, you might prefer different types because you might be wearing gloves, so some might be better than others. This one here, I love that you've got the little lever here, so you can actually have this go to different settings. Okay, you've got this one here, so you can extend the center post. Okay, and you can have it so that, all three of these. Oh. I'm trying to do this with one hand. There we go. All right. So you're going to have that flat on the ground, and then this can actually come out and go underneath. So you can actually set it up so that the phone is set up below the leg. So really great for those low angle shots. I find this to be the most versatile option out there. Really enjoy that tripod. All right. Next thing I want to get onto is storytelling, photographic intention. I want you, every time you pull out your smartphone and take a photo, I want you to just pause for a moment and think, why did I do that? What is the intention here? What's the moment? What's the motivation? What was the stimulus for me wanting to take this photo? Because without getting into composition and all these different techniques and ideas and tools that we have at our disposal, knowing that is the biggest first step. And we do this intuitively already. Now, if you are taking a selfie of yourself and on holidays, you hold the phone there, you always hold it off to the side so that you're on the side and we can see over your shoulder. So already incorporating that rule of thirds that I touched on earlier. Okay, so we're already doing that. So that's because we instinctively know, okay, my intention is to show everyone where I am. So you compose the shot like that. Taking that moment will help you to kind of focus in and get in there. Now, I'll show you just a couple of examples of my dog. Now, I think we'll all agree this is a pretty ordinary snapshot. Okay, here the intention is to photograph my dog. Now, I don't want to just record her. And this is another example. Okay, I've got down low. I've got down to her level. I saw some beautiful lighting. The lighting was coming in, and I used portrait mode on the iPhone, and it worked really well. Now, if you have a phone that doesn't have one of these features that can blur the background, there's an app out there called After Focus. Google Play and the App Store. You can get it on both of those for the price of a cup of coffee. Okay. Another example, got down low. Getting down low, you can see it's just so much more intimate. It's so close, and you have that connection, especially when the eyes are looking at you, because we are drawn to eyes, aren't we? Right, so we're starting to get into composition now. So let's explore that. Now, in my book there, Stronger Photo Composition 4-Step System, I've got over 100 different techniques and tools in there. I know that sounds a lot and it's overwhelming, but they're all categorized into those 4 steps. They're like 4 toolboxes, the 4 steps with lots of tools in there. You just grab 1 or 2 at each of those 4 steps, and then all of a sudden you've got multiple techniques in that one image, and you've stacked those composition techniques. So you're compounding it, making a stronger composition. What are the 4 steps? Number 1, where do you position yourself and the camera? So the angle that you choose to shoot from, the height, whether you tilt the phone or not, whether you angle the phone, at what position, how close, because you don't want to zoom, but then that changes the perspective. Which lens do you use? Do you want to have a compressed background, bring the background in? All these sort of things is the first step. Number 2, where do you position the main subject, the main visual anchor, where you want the person's attention to go to first? Where do you position that in the frame? Okay. Number 3 is, where do you position the contextual elements? What do I mean by that is, where do you position the leading lines? How do you create a visual hierarchy with placement, overlapping? How do you incorporate depth or the perception of depth using those different extra elements in the scene? Now, that can be removing elements out of the scene as well, because, as you know, photography is a subtractive art. It's not like when you're painting something, you start with nothing. With photography, quite often you're trying to look at the background
and remove things. Now, I know it sounds a little bit weird, but when you do this, you might realize, okay, you know what? Step number one, where do I position myself? There's some background clutter here I can't remove. But if I just take one step off to the side, all of a sudden my angle is different and I can actually change the whole background. Number four, a little bit controversial for a composition book, but I like to put this in there because I think it's you can't have composition without editing. Now, I know a lot of people say get a writing camera. Totally get it, especially for commercial photographers who their time is money. But for us amateur photographers, I think sometimes you can go back to your photo and recrop the photo and recompose it using editing and masking. You can do selective editing, local area specific editing, and you can change the visual hierarchy with editing. And you can really bring back the authenticity of the scene and also change that visual hierarchy and improve that visual flow and that experience for the viewer. Now, I hope that's all starting to make sense. Here's an example here with this car. You can see there the first shot, snapshot, second shot, got down really low. I've got that nice sunburst on the front fender there. And I've got rid of the background clutter. It's a bit more context of where we are and what's going on. Here, got down low, and I have contextual elements there. You can see, for those that know Geelong, where I live in Australia, you can see there's some elements there that are linked to that area. Okay, over the shoulder, can't beat an over the shoulder perspective. It draws you in. It feels like you're looking over their shoulder. Okay, and here's an example of my thinking process here. You can see there, I just held up 2 leaves and got, oh, this would look amazing if it was perfectly aligned and I can get that nice silhouette and the textures. So you can see my thinking process there. This one here, now I'm not showing you amazing photos. I'm just showing you some that I can actually draw a learning point out of it. This one here, you can see the overlap. So you've got this person here, and because things are overlapped in front of each other, you can tell this person is closer to us than this stack of tent poles here. You can see this person is closer than this building. Yes, you have lens to camera distortion, you have diminishing perspective, even atmospheric perspective going on here. We've got leading light. There's lots here that gives us some depth to this photo. Lots of leading lines in here. This is another thinking a process that I went through. This duck was here at this beautiful little pond in the Otways, and I just captured the duck, and then I thought about it a little bit more and wanted to blur the background, so I used portrait mode, and you can see there I've got the stick sticking out there. Never a good look. And this was, I was playing around with this when they updated portrait mode, where now the background is blurred and also the foreground is blurred, which makes it look a lot more like a real camera. Here I've gone for a little bit more of a story, so now there's 2 ducks here. And then the final edit was I finally got rid of that stick, and I've enhanced the face here of the duck. And as we talked about, rule of thirds, it's off center, and it's over here, which then brings us and encourages us to look, and this brings us back. Yeah, pretty cool. I'm just going to share a couple more photos and then we'll get into the editing. So this is my son. I was out of the clothesline, saw him there, and I had my phone in my pocket, so I was able to just snap this shot. It was raining. He was looking out at the trampoline, and you just see the look on his face. Now, for me, the mood was so much better than this. You got here, you can see where it is. But when I had to play around with it and got into the editing, I then changed it, converted to a black and white, really darkened off some areas and blurred some areas and increased the textures and create a bit more of a story there. This one here, Baker Street in London, when I was living over there for a little while, I just loved it that Hugh Laurie here kind of looks at me as if to say, what are you doing taking a photo of that lady? I really liked, and I liked the symmetry and the balance of this photo. Okay, and this is another one, snapshot, and this is the part that I love about photography is the editing. I love the mobile editing side of mobile photography. And I guess that's because I spent a lot of time sitting in the car waiting for my daughter with her ballet class. That's my opportunity to just play around, swipe around with things and experiment. So this is a photo I captured on the weekend previous. And what grabbed my attention here, what the stimulus for taking this photo was, I loved the ropes. Now, I couldn't get any closer with this one, so I couldn't change the angle too much. So I just captured it, knowing that I was going to have a play with it in the editing. And then that was the after. So you can see there I've really used a lot of sharpening, a lot of dodging and burning, and having a play around with the highlights and all that sort of thing. And before I get into the editing, I'll just show you what you can do. Just be creative and have a bit of fun. So my daughter and I were at this waterfall, and she was doing her move, and I was beside her, and that's as far as I can stretch. But I wanted to show off to her what I could do, so I went and removed her out of the photo, and then I went in and actually changed my leg position. And you can do all this on your smartphone. So with the Android, you can use Photoshop Mix, and I think it's a subscription now. So Android and iPhone, you can use Photoshop Mix. On the iPhone, I used Superimpose X was the app that I used to do that. All right, let's get into Snapseed first. I want to show you my 6-step editing process on that one. Okay, so Snapseed is a free app available on Google Play and the App Store. I have a 6-step process that I apply pretty much to any photo. It doesn't matter what the genre is or what the subject is. And that is, first thing I do is I straighten it, and then I crop, and then I do a tune image, which is where you do the tones, all that sort of thing. And then I do details, sharpening, and then I will go and heal it, take little bits out of it, and then add a little bit of blur for depth. So let's get in there. As you can see here, you've got some filters that you can use, but we're going into there, and we're going over to perspective. Now we do have rotate next to it. I'll show you really quickly. When you rotate something, okay, you can see there we're actually zooming in and cropping, and we're losing a lot out of there, aren't we? But if we go into this next one, perspective, there's a rotate option in there, and then we have a smart fill. See where I'm going with this? You probably can already guess. Okay, now when we do this, okay, have a look at those black areas. It goes and fills it in, which is unreal. But what I want to do here is I want to have these squirrels' eyes along the line there. Okay, so they're nice and straight. Doesn't matter what the body's doing. I want the eyes nice and straight. So there we go. Happy with that. Next thing is crop. Now I want to do a square crop with this one. I think that will look really nice. Rule of thirds. I know. So it's an oldie and a goodie. All right. There we go. Got that. You know what? I'm actually gonna go in there and crop that a little bit more. And you can see here, there's a history icon here. Okay, I can go view edits, and I can go in there and go, you know what? I want to adjust that. I want to change it around, or I want to bin it. So we can bin it. All right. So we go back to crop. Okay, and in here, I'm going to bring this in a bit tighter. I'm going to bring that in a bit tighter like that. There we go. That's good. I like that. All right, that's better. Okay, next step is the tune image. Okay, up the top here, this one here, tune image. Okay, and you'll be familiar with, and we can change that histogram so that it's bars or the line graph. Okay, we tap there and we go brightness, contrast, and there's one in here that's like vibrance. It's ambient, so it's a mixture of all of them and kind of increases the colors and the tones in the mid-tone area. So I want to get in there. And whenever you're playing around with an editing app and you're experimenting, looking for some, you always want those that you can pixel peep and you're getting nice and close. Okay, so I want to get in there nice and close. You can see the color has come out a little bit. Okay, zoom back and make sure that it looks good. Yep, fantastic. Now I'll go to the top. Brightness. Bring the, I think I'll leave it there. Contrast, I'll make it a little bit punchy. Saturation, I'll leave that. Highlights, always bring highlights down in a photo until it starts to look a bit weird. Bring it back. Yep, that's good. Shadows, I go against the grain here. Everyone likes to increase the shadows. I like to go the other way. I like to decrease the shadows because it kind of creates a little bit of depth in there. Warmth, let's add a little bit of warmth to it. There we go. Okay. The next is details. I'm going to go in there and sharpen. Okay, we've got two tools here, structure and sharpening. Structure is where we have lines. Okay, you can see there's some lines here. You can see on one side it's dark and on the other side it's light. What it does is where it's dark on one pixel, it'll make it darker. Where it's light on one pixel, it'll make it lighter. And that is where we start to get this halo look around edges when our photos are processed on the camera, like JPEGs are processed, and they go and sharpen it. as part of their proprietary photo enhancement. So this is where we can go in there and we can go, you know what, we want to actually, those lines, we want to make them and give the perception of sharpness by doing that. So we can do that. Or we can actually go the other way, which I actually like going the other way. And then sharpening is indiscriminately sharpening every pixel in the photo. Okay. We go back out. That's looking good. We have a before and after icon up the top corner here. You hold that down. You can see the before and after. Might not be able to see it on a little screen. Hey, next one is really cool here. Back into the tools and we go to healing. And this is where we can go in to areas that are kind of grabbing our attention, pulling our attention. We can swipe over it and it gets rid of it. How cool is that? Now, there's another app out there that does an even better job, and that's called Touch Retouch. It is a subscription nowadays, but definitely worth it. I love that app. It is fantastic. Okay, because sometimes you do this and it can look a little bit blurry and a little bit weird, whereas with Touch Retouch, you have cloning and you can get in there and not only change things, but you can restore what you're doing back to its original and change the transparency. Lots of cool stuff. All right, next one, last one is the brush, blur. So we're going here, lens blur. And I know it doesn't look like a real camera. The real cameras don't do depth of field like that, but we can change it to linear and we can do it like that. And it's just a way we can go in and blur that foreground a little bit more. And also there's a vignette here, so we can add a little bit more vignette and we can really emphasize, take the attention away from the corners. So there we go. That's looking pretty good. There's it before and there's our after. 6-step process, super quick. You do it a few times, you can do it in a minute. You can get this photo or any photo just edited and really enhance that viewer experience. Touch Retouch, one of my favorite apps. It's one of my go-tos for object removal. Does a fantastic job. It does object removal, clone stamp, line removal, mesh. I've only used that twice, but it's there and it works really well. But what I love about it is when you go in there and you do object removal, you can have auto or manual, where you can get in there really close, get right in around the subject with the eraser and the brush. And also you have a restore. So once you do a clone stamp or something like that, you can go and restore it and go, you know what, it didn't quite work here. I've gone over the lines. So let's have a quick look. This one here with this lizard. Okay, object removal. Let's have a look. I just want to get rid of some of these bits. So tap on objects. I've got the brush there. Now you can change the size. Okay, and you can make the brush different sizes. So let's go. Okay, it's in manual, but let's make it auto so that I don't have to press go each time. So I'm just going to go in here, just bang, bang, bang. Okay, I've got one here right in front of the body of the lizard. And I love you've got that little magnifying on the left side. So I'm not even looking at the photo. I'm just looking at that. Okay, and then go. That's done. Okay, zoom back out. What else is distracting? Okay, the line here, this one here is distracting. So if I go back, I'm going to go line and swipe over it. Bang, it did a job, did a good job there. And notice how we can actually go and we can actually move this around. If it didn't quite get there, or I need to make it thicker or thinner, and then just press go. How good's that? It's fantastic. All right, so I have another one sticking out this lizard. So let's go in there and remove that one. Make the line a bit thicker. Go. Not bad, not bad. We might need to go into objects here and just go in here and just fix that up a little bit. Yeah, that's looking better. Doesn't look like it's been half cut off. Go in there and see what it does for the lot. Yep, nice. Okay. Next one I want to show you here is clone stamp. All right, so we'll just pick up a reference point here and then we just swipe. And if it didn't quite work, we press the restore button and it gives us a quick little look at what was before, and we can go in there and just restore areas that it's gone over the edge. Okay. All right, one more along here. Okay, we'll go object. Okay, I've got that. How did that work? Pretty good. I'm happy with that. But again, we can go into restore and see how it took out the edge. It took out the edge of the lizard. We go in there and we go, you know what? Don't do that bit. And then go. Well, it still went pretty close. So let's reapply. And we can go in there and reapply. Restore. We can go in there and restore that bit so that it gets left alone. So perfect. One more. This one. All right. And again, look what it did.
So I'll go in here, restore. This is why this app is so much better than others out there, because I love the restore. We can go in there and just quickly fix it. And that's it, job done. I always set mine up. Let's go into the settings. I set up in dark mode. When you go in here for the first time, I do recommend you go and have a look at the tutorials. They're fantastic. Every tool you can go in there and watch a video and see exactly how you use it, why you should use certain tools over others. It's fantastic. Great. Now, I've shown you how great Snapseed is, touch retouch, but the number one most versatile app out there for editing is no doubt Adobe Lightroom Mobile. Now, I know that name might sound a little bit intimidating and overwhelming for people, but it is actually quite an intuitive app to use, and it's fantastic. It's simple or complicated or comprehensive as much as you want it to be. Now, with subscription, you can get subscription that covers all your desktop computers, or there is another option for just mobile-only devices. So it's a way of saving some money if you're just into mobile photography. So let's get into it.
All right, so here's our photo loaded up inside Lightroom Mobile. It's a fantastic app. 95% of the tools in here are available on the free version. The ones you do need to pay for is the masking. Now, when I say pay for, it's a cheap subscription. My gosh, it's so cheap and affordable. Why wouldn't you do it? If you love editing your photos, it's a no-brainer again. So if you've got the masking there, presets, you have some adaptive presets. So now you can have a preset that'll just enhance the sky or the subject. It's fantastic. Not quite as much as jumping on your computer, where you can do masking and select the eyes, hair. It's not quite that detailed, but I'll tell you what, I can't wait to show you. We'll get into that. But also the other thing is, I need to swipe up here, is the geometry. So you get extra geometry tools there for straightening and changing perspective issues. All right, my process, my workflow. First one is crop. So I'm going to get in here, and then you can straighten the image here. And this is just like the rotate tool in Snapseed, so it does zoom in a little bit. I don't need to change it there, but I will change it to 16:9 so that I can display it on my screen at home. Okay, I'm happy with that. Might bring that out just a little bit more. A little bit more. There we go. Happy with that. Okay. The next one I'm going to play with is colors. And the reason why I do color before tones is that each color has a tonal value, like a brightness value. So if you go enhancing the highlights and you've got your balance right and you're happy with it, and then you go and boost you go and saturate yellow, all of a sudden your tones will be out, because that's has a high brightness value. All right. Now, you already know what temperature, tint, and all that sort of thing is. The difference between vibrance and saturation will go and saturate and boost every color in the scene. And when there's green, have a look. It's like in your face, all right? So we just double tap to zero that. Vibrance just goes straight to the areas that are kind of not already completely saturated, and it'll go and boost those. So it's a little bit better. Especially if there's skin tones in there, it actually preserves the skin tones. So that's a great job. So we might actually go in there and enhance that a little bit. But I'm going to go into up here, going to go up into the colors. All right, because I want to have a bit of a play with these. First thing I want to do is go into the blues, because this was an overcast, cloudy day, and there's a bit of a blue tint going on there. So I want to bring that back a little bit. And saturation, that's the one I meant, saturation. All right, so let's swipe it, and I'm going to go to about there. That's pretty good. Happy with that. And I might just brighten it a little bit, the blues. All right, happy with that. Straight into greens. There's a lot of green in here, and you can see before, it doesn't take much to completely ruin it. So I'm going to saturate it a little bit, and I might just, go to where it looks good and kind of bring it back so it's not overcooked and overdone. And then I'm going to actually brighten those up a little bit as well. Brighten up those greens, because I want the greens to stand out, but not be weird and fake, if you like. All right, yellow. There's a little bit of yellow here. I'm not really keen on yellow, so I'm going to change the hue and push the yellows towards the orange a little bit. Okay, now when you tap on the slider next to the marker in the middle there, it increases by increments of 5. So I'm happy with that. So let's do that. So we're going to change that and get rid of a lot of the yellows, push them across there. Okay, and next I'm going to go into orange, and I'm going to saturate. Now there's already some, and I like here we've got some orange there in the foliage, so I want to enhance that. So I'm going to saturate that a little bit. Might just zoom in so I can see what I'm doing there. I'm going to saturate that a little bit. Yep, and then brighten the nose as well, because I want my intention here is to try and make that foliage in the front here. I want this to pop. Okay, I want textures here, and I want this to pop. I want those to be layers, so foreground, middle ground, and then the background is the cloud. So that's where I'm going with this. I should have said that before. All right, great educator. Right, so I'm done. I'm done with that. All right, next thing I'm going to do is I'm now going to go over to the light panel where I can play around with some tones now. Okay, exposure. Let's brighten it a little bit. But I like to go highlights first. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to decrease the highlights really as much as I can before it starts to look, bring out too much gray. I want to have some textures, some details in the clouds there. When I say textures and details, I want to bring back some interest in the cloud, not necessarily textures, but you know what I mean. I don't want it to be blown out. I want to be able to see in there. All right, so that's that. Contrast, I'm going to add a little bit of contrast, I think, because I want this to be a bit punchy. I want this photo to be a bit punchy. Okay, shadows, I've touched on this before. I like to go backwards, reduce the shadows. Okay, while I'm there, I'm going to play around with the blacks. Okay, bring the blacks right back, the black point. And then I've done the highlights, so I might just the whites. Just bring it back until, yeah, I like that. That's looking nice. It's looking good. All righty. Next, I'm going to go into the effects panel and play around with some clarity and dehaze. Clarity, I'm going to go up, add a little bit there, and dehaze. Let's see how far we can push this. Because think about that. I'm not going to go crazy with it because it can make it look a bit fake again, because you do need to have, in the background here, you do need to have some haze. Okay, so we might bring it back just a little bit more, actually. Yeah, because you need to have the background, a bit of haze there so that it adds depth, adds distance, because otherwise it'll just look like a two-dimensional photo. We don't want that. All right. So that's pretty much it for the free tools. The next stage here I want to go into is the masking. This is awesome. I love it because we could have added a vignette, but what the vignette does, let me just get rid of that. What the vignette does is it'll go around the corners and darken the corners, but sometimes, let me show you this, okay? It's easy to show. Radial, go in here, then I'm going to invert it, okay? Brightness, and I'll go in here and reduce, okay? But it's like, have a look at this. Now, I can move this around wherever I want. And so much better. And this is what I want. Remember I said I wanted to have the foreground there nice and bright. Now, I can see the sky is going a bit funky, but we're going to come back to that. Don't worry. Don't worry about it. Okay, so I think I'm pretty happy with that. Might even go a little bit more dramatic. Why not? Let's go crazy. It's a little screen. You need to be able to see what I'm doing. All right, bring that down. Okay, that's looking good. All right, so I'm happy with that vignette. Now, another thing, let me go back. Another thing you can do here with the vignette, and similar to the vignette tool inside Lightroom here, is you can go in here and you can subtract from that area sorry, not subtract from it. I'll go back a step. You can go into the tones and highlights, and you can bring the highlights back around that vignette. So if you've got nice bokeh or something there that is a nice highlight that you don't want to lose in there, you can increase the highlights. So you can see there around the edges. Okay, I'm bringing the highlights. So I want the highlights there. All right, I digress. I missed that one. Right. Next one I want to do in here is the shadows inside the rocks. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to do another radial. Okay, and I'm going to select in here. I want to do this area. All right, I'm going to subtract a luminance range, so brightness. Okay, so you can see in here. Whoop, let me just get that around. I want to do the darker areas in there. Okay, shadows. I'm trying to pick up at the moment. I'm trying to pick up a bright spot so that I just get the shadows. All right, let's try this way. All right, instead of using the pin, there we go. That's better. And then fine tune it with this one. Okay. All right, so we're just doing this. There we go. Nailed it. Apply brightness. and shadows. I'm going to boost the shadows in there. Now, not doing exposure because it can turn about a bit muddy looking. All right, happy with that. Okay, next one I want to do in here is the sky. Okay, select sky, and it'll go up there. And you can see here, that's actually bled over into the rocks a little bit. So I'm going to subtract from that sky mask a luminance range, and I'm going to go in there and pick the rocks there. So now you can see there, it's taken a lot of the rocks out. Okay, sky. So now I want to go in and really fix up those colors and make them a little bit less saturated. Okay, I'm going to take away some contrast there, highlight. What do I want to do? Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. Leave it at that. Good. I don't want it to be the focal point. It's context, but I don't want the eye to be drawn to it, is what I'm getting at. All right. Last thing I want to do is the rocks, all of the rocks. So I might just use a brush here, finger paint, get in there. It's a bit rough. Doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Okay, because I want to really boost the textures here. So I'm going to go into effects, texture, 100%. There we go. All right, let's have a look. There's our before. So we're just long pressing on the photo. If you want to see exactly what the masking did, you can long press on that masking icon, and you can see the before masking hidden, the masking after, and you can see what's happening there. Okay. Now I mentioned that foliage. I wanted that to really pop a little bit more. So let's go in here and select that foliage area. Okay, well, not that one. I'm going to feather it a little bit more so it's not as harsh. Okay. And I'm just going to go in there and saturate it a little bit, and I'm going to add a little bit of exposure. Yeah, that's looking good. Bit of darks to make it pop. Yeah, nice. I like it. There we go. And before we wrap up with a summary, let's have a quick look at ChatGPT and have a look at what it can do for us. ChatGPT, this is a lot of fun. So if you're taking photos of chickens, you can just go into the prompt and do a text prompt. How you set this up, just go Google it. I don't want to go into all that here, but basically you just need to set up a free account, free to use text prompts, and then it comes up with some answers here. So I've got list poultry mobile photography tips for chickens. Sure, here's some tips. Get down to that level. Natural lighting, patience and calmness, burst mode, rule of thirds, focus on details, keep the background simple, avoid using flash. Flash can startle the chickens and lead to unnatural lighting, so it's best to avoid using it. Experiment with angles, edit and enhance. Okay, I like it. How good's that? You can also use it for some creative ideas. I'm presenting at a camera club in Essendon, and I'm in Essendon, Victoria. Can you give me some location-specific creative photography ideas? Certainly, Essendon, a suburb of Melbourne, blah, 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 blah. This is amazing. All right, it gives you a list of different things you can go and capture in the area. The windsocks at Essendon Airport, and it explains why. Essendon Traffic Bridge, Essendon Fields, Rose Street Park, the river, Maribyrnong River. Explore the banks of the river, look for reflections in the water, people enjoying recreational activities, capture the river against the cityscape in the background. Sunrise or sunset can add a beautiful ambience. It's so good, isn't it? Essendon Historical Society, local street scenes, Flemington Racecourse, aerial views, community events, and then a little message at the end there asking, reminding you to be respectful of people's privacy and property when taking photos. How cool is that? So, I used to go onto Instagram and other things and look for other people's photos in the area, look for a hashtag for that area. But now you can just go to ChatGPT, put in any area and ask for, now I know it's not accurate. I did one for Point Addis, a coastal area near where I live. And it said to get a great vantage points, take photos from the cliff edge. Like, oh, no, don't ever do that. So these are just prompts. These are ideas, but that's just the way you can get out there and get creative with your photography. So thanks for joining me. I know I talked fast and I went through a lot of information there. Just to recap, I've got my notes here. Just to recap really quickly, we went through some camera features. Tap the screen to focus, spot meter. Clean the lens regularly. Use one of these. It's fantastic. Works brilliantly. Capture techniques, live photos on the iPhone. Camera replacement apps are fantastic. Lightroom Mobile has a camera app inside of it, so you can take manual control of your ISO, shutter speed, that sort of thing. White balance, it's fantastic. We talked about photographic intention. composition, storytelling. We talked about, like we demonstrated, we went through Snapseed, just touched the surface of that, and Lightroom Mobile, two fantastic apps. So I hope you enjoyed that. We covered a lot, but even if you picked up one or two things in there, that's fantastic. So thanks for joining me, and I'll talk to you again. It's a fantastic tool on the iPhone.